Hi. The ultimate corruption, as I referred to in my last video cast, has just become headlines in all the papers and all the media. Industrial scale child abuse. Well, child rape really, isn't it, rather than abuse, by people at the very, very top of our political system. MPs, lords, and almost certainly, although it hasn't come out yet, judges, civil service mandarins, so far not mentioned, but one of the, due to their proximity to these people and the celebs such as Sir Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris, CBE, the royals. And those bastards who probably outnumber them by a considerable number, who protected them and procured the victims. All equally guilty, all equally culpable of this crime. What is emerging on a daily basis, and what we already suspected, this is not just a case of a few bad eggs, but the whole rotten establishment. When you have worthies from the right wing, such as Lord Tebbit, raising the spectre of an establishment cover-up, and then from the left, Labour MPs such as Tom Watson and Simon Danczuk, the latter who was warned off a couple of days ago, and that is a couple of days ago. It's now the 10th of July, so this probably happened on the 7th of July, was warned off in the corridors of Parliament by a Conservative minister, Sir Edward Garnier, told not to name Lord Britain. Not a wise move, old chap. The matter had been put to bed a long time ago. And even if it could, even if he did mention it, it would kill the poor fellow. Good. Save us the trouble of stringing him up. Lord Britain, Home Secretary under Thatcher, was questioned by police last month about a historic rape case of a woman in the 1960s, rather than a child this time. The very same man, if I could call him that, was suspected of being a paedophile in the 1980s. Remember all those Leon Britain is a paedophile stickers? Common knowledge at the time was that the Secret Service were involved in suppressing this story, as no doubt they have done many, many times before, as part of the decades of cover-up of this vile story, protecting the integrity of the establishment and the system. The whole disgusting story has burst like a lanced abscess over the last week. Within days, a panicked Theresa May announced 2 public inquiries, one of which was to be chaired by Dame Elizabeth Butler-Sloss, who by remarkable coincidence is the sister of Lord Havers, former Attorney General, 1979 to 1987, who, according to yesterday's Evening Standard, had a 20-minute argument outside the Commons chamber with the late Geoffrey Dickens MP, trying to dissuade him from naming a paedophile diplomat, a member of the Paedophile Information Exchange, Sir Peter Heyman, who received a mere caution for possessing a huge, as it says in the Standard, quality of very explicit child abuse images in what was then the pre-internet age. Dame Elizabeth Butler-Sloss is already tainted beyond redemption. Their inquiry is compromised before it even starts. What a surprise. As the case of the late Sir Cyril Smith and the headlines in Tuesday's Daily Mirror, 7th of July, demonstrate, it says Tony Blair's minister in nude child sex scandal, all factions of our ruling political class are deeply compromised. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, the putrid iceberg as you could call it. But they can no longer conceal it for much longer. Victims are coming forward, thanks to the Savile and Harris revelations. The same 20 names in the political establishment are reoccurring. Who are they? We demand to know. It's our right, if we have any rights at all. Remember, these animals are our rulers, pontificating, passing laws, sitting in judgment, running the state. They are the system. The The scum we've always said they are is what they are, scum. The majority are compromised. It's not only the historic accusations, the same perpetrators are in power right now, sitting in the House of Lords, senior judges, still up to their same filthy tricks, no doubt, but probably more in third world countries these days. And what about the missing paper evidence handed over to Leon Britton? 114 files. Files, not pages. Files. Couldn't be more blatant than that. Just one of the many cover-ups. Just disappeared. I would say they'd probably been destroyed, and that's it. I don't want to go into the hideous, sickening details, but don't be fooled by the many blinders that will be brought into play by the defenders of these criminals attempting to mitigate these atrocities, saying it was consensual because they were rent boys, or it was merely statutory rape. We're talking about children, youngsters who were brutally raped by these pigs, resulting in internal injuries, intense psychological damages that the victims carry with them to this very day, and will carry them with them for the rest of their lives, scarred forever. There must be thousands of them over the decades. Sir Jimmy Savile, OBE, has accounted for over 550 of these victims alone, and the figure is rising. So when I say thousands, it's no exaggeration. Will they get away with it? Mostly, yes. Unless the names are named to us, the public, by the MPs, the media. The internet's not enough. The information's been all over the internet, and nothing's happened. No result of this at all. They, the establishment, and that's all the top bods, they know the names. We don't. Why should we be kept in the dark by the establishment? MPs could name them, for example, on these live TV in the chamber, under the gaze of the entire nation. I don't see why they don't, because they can claim parliamentary privilege. So maybe Tom Watson, maybe Simon Danschnick, and maybe even George Galloway could do it, or maybe someone honourable from the Conservative Party could do it. Some maverick, somebody that sort of doesn't completely toe the party line. But so far, they've all remained silent. And what about our so-called free press? They can name and shame some poor woman that had sex with 20 men in a bar the other week, name her, have photographed all over the front pages. But why haven't the cowards named any of these bastards? Have they never heard of the old-fashioned phrase, publish and be damned? Or publish or be damned, perhaps? Or not publish or be damned, perhaps, might be the way of putting it. Or broadcast and be damned with the TV? Why should only the elite be privy to this knowledge? The victims, and as I said, there must be many thousands, will, I think, eventually become proactive, will eventually take to the streets, lead the indignation, name the names. And if they take it to the streets, I can tell you they'll have plenty of support. An inquiry led by a state and the friends of the abusers, I'd have more faith in a bunch of drunken EDL members picked at random from one of their demos. Anybody. A group of council tenants, market stall holders, supermarket cashiers, cleaners, anyone but the likes of Dame Butler-Sloss and her revolting ilk. If these offenders were named, people would harass them, march on them, their houses, or picket their £10 million Kensington residences. And if that's mob mentality, bring it on, is what I say. Surely we've had enough of them investigating and covering up themselves. If the population just sit back again, shrug their collective shoulders on this one, as they have done for practically everything else, then we are just as degenerate as the offenders. Degraded even, because our arrogant, smug so-called superiors, and we carry on voting for them, grovelling before lords and sirs and the roars. It's disgusting. And of course the left, liberals, and even some so-called anarchists would be trembling with fear, scared of what could emerge if enraged mobs did take to the streets, just as they did 3 years ago. Why, elements like the EDL could even take advantage of it, they say. You know, we don't want mob rule. Well, I fucking do. I prefer mob rule to paedophile rule. But why is this? Why do these activists, why do these lefties, why have they got this mentality? Because they are middle class, most of them. And like all the middle classes, they deeply fear us. They deeply fear the mob. And they always will. Thus far, anyway. And they will always stick by the system, thus far. And the crumbs that it throws them. The crumbs of control that they have over us. Make no mistake, this is a class thing. These raped kids are from the lower class, the most helpless people imaginable. Oh, yes. Of course they don't want things to go beyond the prescribed rules, the left. One-day strikes like today's futile passive gesture. Voting Labour to keep the Tories out. Useless demonstrations. If this hideous scandal provokes real trouble on the streets, the state will have no hesitation in unleashing riot police, maybe Boris Johnson's water cannon. After all, he was expecting trouble this summer. And of course, that would up the ante, push things beyond their grasp. Create a more interesting situation, perhaps. Even if an individual victim, for example, tossed a half-brick through the window of one of these wealthy, powerful abusers, they would, of course, face all the full force of the law, while the perpetrators would sit comfortably with their MBEs, CBEs, OBEs, titles, as they still do, sitting in the House of Lords, raking in millions, sitting in judgment upon us, as they do now, at this very moment. These people aren't all dead. There's some of them still alive, and there's some of them have got plenty of power. But remember this, it's going to be difficult for them to collectively bury this. We might bury our heads in the sand all the time, the great British public, but because there's going to be many, many more of these disgusting revelations we'll be spewing out, the momentum could prove unstoppable. So, see you on the streets, hopefully, but then given the prevailing apathy, probably not yet anyway, but you never know. This could be the thing that kicks it off, because I'm damned if anything else has.